Welcome into WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson with you here. And Jeff, I just noticed this about 15 seconds ago. This is a special episode for us because it's
100.
episode 100.
You just realized that it's 100. I thought you were gonna say it was something cool, like you got me a Valentine's Day gift or something. But no, it is
Let's not
episode
make it weird,
100.
man.
That's only I think that's only 100 since we actually wore up, not counting when we worked together
With,
at
with MSA.
MSA. Yeah, so I mean we've been doing this a
Yeah.
long time, but seems like more than 100 to be honest with you.
Yeah, it really does. I feel like we should have had some like blooper reels ready or something, right?
I mean I can remember being in I remember I was working the PM shift of Zone 5 in Pittsburgh Police, and I remember being in the car, in my patrol car with the radio on and everything. I'm with my partner, and I remember taking your call with who was your partner?
Rick Smith.
Rick Smith. I remember
Yeah.
this had to have been like 2011 or 12, something around then, but I remember I was on patrol and I called in to MSA and we were doing a preview. It might have been for the state tournament, and I remember just thinking like, shit, like we better not get a call right now because like a police call, or else this is because I'm running. I'm like, hey, yeah, so 107, that's a good weight. It's probably 106 back then, but yeah, we've had some good moments, man. We've had
No
some
doubt
good
about it.
war up, but yeah, this is it. So I thought you were going to say something about like Johnstown or how was Johnstown, etc. But just episode 100.
Yeah, a little nostalgia here to
Mm-hmm.
start the show tonight. It's come a long way, right? From giving you the call when Rick and I had it to when you and I were in the studio for I think probably a year for with
At least a
MSA,
year,
and
yeah.
then we decided to obviously move it over to PA Power, and we did it out of your basement for a year or
Yeah,
two,
that's right.
and
You'd come over
then
to my basement. Yeah, yeah.
yep, and then
Man,
we
that was yeah,
moved
that
that
was.
into to now and what we got.
Now here we are. Yeah,
Well, couldn't ask for a better partner, man. I appreciate
thanks.
this over the years. It's been a lot of fun. But with that said, Jeffrey, obviously we had a good weekend WPIL wise
Mm-hmm.
within the team tournament with 3 medals coming home. I know we talked about the likelihood was for at least 2, right? We felt pretty confident AAA would represent pretty well. But obviously they really outshined and
Mm-hmm.
became 1 and 2 in the state. So we'll talk about AAA in a moment. But first, let's talk about AA and really the great weekend for Derry, who ended up coming home with the 4th place medal. And really, when you look at AA as a whole, the top 3 teams I think we kind of talked about ranked in the nation: Faith Christian, Bishop McCourt, Bishop McDevitt. So really, it was a battle for one spot. You look at the opening round action that happened on Tuesday. Laurel lost to Mifflinburg 33-27. McGuffey lost to General McLean 34-31. So some tight scores. But then it was the first round action. Derry was able to beat Penns Valley 44-25 to advance to Johnstown on Friday and set themselves up for the matchup with Faith Christian. But it was the tight loss for Burrell 32-29 against Chestnut Ridge, ending Burrell's team season.
Yeah, and that was one that we kind of had circled because that was a rematch from a few weeks prior to when Dom Deputy lost to Cam Baker. We did get that match again at 127. This time, Dom Deputy gets the 9-4 win, and really it was 127, 133, and 139 that were the critical bouts for Chestnut Ridge to get that win. Dom gets a decision there. Austin Bernash, he gets a decision over Carter Thomas, and then Trendon Wiley gets a decision over Jacob Stewart. So those points right there were they were big for Burrell to outlast outlast for Chestnut Ridge to outlast Burrell. So it was we knew it was going to be tough for Cam Baker to replicate what he did against Dom Deputy the first time, but for Chestnut Ridge, they came out in front of their home crowd and they got a good win.
And then the other big result that happened before going to Johnstown, Jeff, was Berks Catholic
Mm-hmm.
losing to Montoursville 35-34. They have been the consensus number 4 team throughout the entire season. Again, another Catholic school that everybody was upset about, right? But they ended up losing their match on Tuesday night. So that opened the door for Derry. They wrestled on Friday. Derry lost to Faith Christian 52-9, dropping into the consolations. But this is where we had talked about in the preview, right? They would likely face Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
And then winning that, they would likely face, we thought it would be Chestnut Ridge or Berks Catholic. In this case, it was Chestnut Ridge. But two big wins for Derry. They beat Reynolds 34-29, and they beat Chestnut Ridge 44-23 to set themselves up for that third, fourth place match.
I really liked that Derry and Reynolds match. That was a lot of fun. Those two teams that have a lot of similarities in terms of just the way they wrestle and sort of like the way they're coached in a lot of ways. So, and honestly, it was full of some really good bouts. I look at Tino Sulio versus Dylan Bateman at 133. That was a really good matchup. 4-1 was the winner for Tino. He got it in sudden victory. I thought even going up through looking at Camden Olson and Hudson Wolbert, and Camden Olson, I thought he has done a great job for Derry throughout his freshman year. He's been asked to bump up a lot to 39, and he's gotten to wrestle some of the best guys in the state at 139, and he's performed at a high level. So I was impressed with Camden Olson. Michael McNeil lost to Gutsist at 145, but then William McNeil comes with a major decision. Ewan Olson, he had some tough competition throughout the weekend, much like his brother Camden, but Ewan was able to get a tech fall there, and probably the biggest match ranked wise was Brady Brown getting a major on Emery Johnson at 189. He won that 14-1. So that was impressive. And then Derry forfeited 215 and 285 to close it out. So Derry looked good, and we're going to talk about them coming up, to get into that third and fourth place match. But I was impressed with their freshmen, to be honest with you, and just the way they battled.
Yeah, and we've talked about really the talent was never in question, right? It was really just, hey, this is a young team. How are they going to handle, some of the stress and the pressures where you have teams like Reynolds, Chestnut Ridge, Burrell that have been there, done that, and they've handled it extremely well, right? And they ended up coming up just short, finishing in third place. They dropped a 42-9 decision to Bishop McDevitt, but all season long, I mean, you're talking about 3 nationally ranked teams. You're probably talking 3 of the best teams in the state of Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
AA and AAA. So, you can't really knock Derry for finishing in fourth place, right? I mean, they had a great run and a great season and just an incredible finish to finish in fourth.
Yeah, and like I said, I was impressed with them all weekend. Just the way they were competing in close matches, and they seemed to always come out on top with wins there. I look at that Derry and Chestnut Ridge match. There was a lot of really good battles in that. Dylan Bateman outlast Austin Bernash 7-6 at 133. That was a really good match. Austin Bernash, he had beat Austin Carfley from Bishop McCourt, so that was a really good win for him. And then Dylan Bateman beats him. Camden Olson beat Trendon Willie, beat him 4-0. So just these little matches within that larger duel, I thought was important. Cooper Deputy got a pin over Mason Kiesecker, but Patrick Bulger, he had a nice win over Garrett Wyant, who is a returning state medalist, beat him 6-5. So just these little matches, again, it just seemed like they were always coming out on top of those toss-up matches. And when you look at what they did against Bishop McDevitt, Bishop McDevitt was one of the best teams in the nation, as we mentioned. But they battled. Camden Olson battled Liam Lawler, who's a returning state medalist. Zane Krause beat Dylan Bateman 13-7. That was kind of a funky match there. Even Will McNeil kept it close with Grayson Music, a Stanford commit, a guy who was a state finalist a couple years back. And then Ewan Olson had a nice win over Nicky Negron from McDevitt, who's a returning state medalist himself. So there were some really good matches. Kiesecker beat Clip at 107. And you got to wrestle with some of the best. I mean, they got to wrestle Faith Christian, who's top 5 in the nation by most accounts, and then Bishop McDevitt, who's top 20 in the nation. So their guys got to see, especially going into the individual postseason, they've had those feels, right? They've seen where they stack up against some of these guys. And you look at just throughout the Derry lineup, I think a lot of those guys, they're battle tested. They're like 35-15, like that's a lot of matches. And you've lost 15 times, but those are 15 quality opponents you lost to.
Oh, no doubt about it. And you look at the Derry team as well, from the folks and we'll talk about it here shortly with the sections, but they only have 3 seniors that are
Yeah.
entered into the individual postseason. You got Jeremiah Guess at 152 pounds. You got Ewan Olson at 160, and you got your 285-pounder, Justin Papuga. That's it.
Yeah.
This team is coming back next year. So, obviously you look at those teams ahead of them, and obviously there's some seniors coming off those teams, and they may reload, right? But Derry's going to be in that conversation as one of the best in the state next year.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you look at some of these other teams, and obviously Faith Christian returns a ton. McCourt's going to bring back a good amount, but they're certainly going to be hit with a little bit. And I mean, Derry's going to be in the driver's seat for the WPIAL. They're going to be in the driver's seat for the next couple of years, the next foreseeable future. I think they're really going to be, they're going to be the Burl, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and obviously Burrow's going to probably reload as well and make it a great matchup, right, every single year. But Derry's without a doubt fantastic season. Congratulations to Coach Dolan and their squad, and love watching them wrestle, and gonna love watching them here in the individual postseason. On the other side of the house, Jeff, on AAA. So the very first night for AAA, Connellsville had the win over LaSalle College, 61-6. They also beat Gettysburg 34-33. Norwin beats Du Bois 55-15, and Franklin Regional over Palmyra 45-22. So all 3 teams make it into the quarterfinals on Friday, and it set up a matchup between Norwin and Connellsville in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, I had been asking for that match. I was glad that match happened. I wanted to see that match in the quarterfinals between them. No real surprises there. Franklin Regional beating Palmyra, not a surprise. We expected that. We expected them to beat State College in the quarterfinals to make the semifinals. You look at Connellsville. Connellsville, everyone said, "Oh, was that Connellsville and Gettysburg match? Was it tight?" And they forfeited the last 3 weights. Not saying they would have won those weights, but they certainly probably wouldn't have given up 18 points, right? So Connellsville beats Gettysburg in Gettysburg after traveling there, beating LaSalle. So you can't take that away. The fact that they had to travel from Connellsville to Gettysburg, wrestle 2 matches, come back, then drive to Johnstown. The Connellsville definitely had to endure a little bit there. Norwin, I was just super impressed with them all weekend, and really just came out, and they wrestled. I wouldn't say they wrestled better than expected. They just wrestled clean, and they wrestled really well. And the moment wasn't too big for them. And same with Franklin Regional. Honestly, Franklin Regional and Norwin were like kind of on parallel tracks, right? You have some big names, but you have some guys that are just going out there and not giving up bonus points, and they're getting tight wins. That's the reason why Franklin Regional was able to beat Bethlehem Catholic, and that's the reason why Norwin was able to beat Council Rock South. After the biggest story of the night, or Johnstown, was Nazareth, the number 1 team in the state, the District 11 champions. They lose on Friday night to Council Rock South 33-32. And honestly, they just looked absolutely flat. They did not look like it's very uncharacteristic for a Dave Kroll team. But apparently he got 2 of them on Friday night, because Saturday they looked like a completely different team. They came out, they beat Connellsville 33-24. They beat Bethlehem Catholic 37-21, and then they really just destroy Boyertown 52-7, who had 2 wins over Council Rock South already this year, right? So, it's all about matchups, right? But Norwin, they jumped on that opportunity. They beat Council Rock South to get into the finals, and they were right there with Franklin Regional yet again. I mean, this was the third time in a matter of 4 weeks that they wrestled Franklin Regional, and not much has changed. That it was basically same script as it was the first two times.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, right? That they wrestle 3 times and it's a similar score all 3 times, similar result. But that just goes to show that there was certainly the results that were expected, I guess. But I think the big thing that happened on that Friday night, right? Norwin, huge win over Connellsville, toss-up
Yeah.
match. We've broken it down a couple of times. Franklin Regional won over State College. I think that was expected. But I think what happened was when you had Council Rock South beat Nazareth, not only one, you have the top team go down that's in the rankings, but two, now on the Franklin Regional side, you got to be thinking, you know what? Bethlehem Catholic may not be as good as we, are thinking as a number 2 team, right? Like we can be able to beat these guys if Council Rock South can also beat Nazareth.
Yeah.
And I think that just opens it up a little bit, right? I mean, Franklin Regional with their big win over Bethlehem Catholic, and Norwin then obviously getting their win over Council Rock South. I mean, I think that loss for Nazareth also boosted the confidence a bit for Franklin Regional and Norwin.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think if you look at both, Kyle Martin and Matt Leby and sort of their eyes on front, they were like, oh, this is real. Like this is a path. I mean, not that they didn't think that they could compete with those teams going into it. No doubt they expected to be where they were. But I think it just brings it to light and it makes it a little bit more realistic. Like, man, like this is really tight. And we had said that you throw the top 10 teams in a bag, shake them up, throw them around. And honestly, you didn't know how they were going to end up. You re-wrestle that, Connellsville could win a state title. Bethlehem Catholic could win. Nazareth could win. You just don't know. And that's what made AAA so fun. I mean, those quarterfinals were some of the best quarterfinals that I've ever seen, especially in AAA, in a long, long time. Going back to that Norwin and Connellsville match, that was just, I mean, an absolute war. I sat there at that mat and watched that match from start to finish. There were so many battles within that war. 107, Luca Patera gets a gritty win, 13-7 over Jeremy Gray. That was a must-have, right? Franks, they knew Franks was going to get bonus at 14, which he did. They knew Landon Sidden was going to get bonus points at 21, which he did. But then you start looking at some of these toss-up matches. Klippa and Tommy Gretz. They bump Gretz up to 27. He loses to Colin Klippa 1-0. Huge match, right? That could go a different way. Nolan Rice had a big pin over Don Butera. I wasn't expecting him to get a fall there. That was huge for Connellsville. Brooks Blasco looked really good against Landon Lynn. Beats him 7-0, almost got a major. Kai Vielma, tech fall, right? Not super unexpected. But then you go to 152, Noah Kern, decision over Luke Lilly 5-3. That's a toss-up match, right? Riley Schaefer beating Cooper Lembo 5-1 at 189. That was big, so yeah, it was a really good dual meet. It's interesting because people forget that Kyle Martin, he wrestled at Connellsville. He was a Falcon for much of his life, right? So, I'm not sure what that was like for him to coach against his former team and his, the school that he represented as an athlete. So, it had to have been a little weird, a little strange, right? Because you're trying to get into the state semifinals and potentially the state finals. So, but that was such a good match. I was glad it happened. And like I said, Friday night quarterfinals in AAA. Although the attendance, there wasn't a whole lot of people in the stands. It was very entertaining.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned AAA and you could shake it up in different ways. Just looking at the two districts too, right? I think District 11, it was like, hey, who's going to be the two teams that come out of this? Because there's 5 or 6 really good ones. And we talked about it here in District 7 in the WPIAL, right?
Yep.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago was who's going to come out as the top 3 teams? Because we had kind of an idea, but you also had Cannon McMillan, who was a strong team, Kiski, who had big wins, North Allegheny, who had big wins. Like there was 7 or 8 teams where like, this could go either way. I mean, I think you even mentioned how Moon matches up well with Franklin Regional, and they could beat them in the quarters.
Yeah.
So they could have went from losing in the quarters to winning a state title. Like you never think that, but that's how tight the AAA has been this year.
Yeah, I mean it was, and that's what made it fun, from a fan perspective, and from someone who follows this as closely as you do. I mean, it was, because it's almost like you just throw your hands up and you're like, I don't know. With Double A, you knew there wasn't any. A meteor would have just struck planet Earth for the two teams in Double A to not be in the state finals. And I would say needs to follow up with another meteor strike for Bishop McDevitt not to finish third. Not saying that makes it boring, because there's still a lot of really good matches. We got to see Bo Bassett versus Joey Bachman for a second time this year. Like, there was some good bouts. Brant Hare and Grayson Music wrestled at 145. There was a lot of fun matches, but when you talk about the atmosphere of a dual meet, you can't replicate what we saw in AAA. And honestly, I would say with Double A, you got to see some of that in the consolation rounds. Like that Reynolds Dairy match was a good, gritty match. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. And Franklin Regional, I don't know if you would have told me at the beginning of the year in like September, October, that Franklin Regional was going to win a state title, I may have been like, what are you smoking? Potentially, like I mean, yeah, they were going to be good, I thought. I don't know if I had it on my bingo card that they were going to win a state title, but that's a credit to Matt Leby and his staff. I got to talk to Nico Magaludis a good bit this weekend, and he seems to be really involved, and they got a really good thing going there, and they just have buy-in, community buy-in. They have a lot of tradition there, and they had guys that stepped up, that aren't the superstars, like a guy like Ethan Cartwright. Ethan Cartwright beats Teague Sanderson, has a great weekend, gets bonus points in every match that he needed. Micah Ruan, same thing. Max Firestein, he delivered. I'm sure it was a little bit close for him against Klingon Smith, because they're always so close. Chase Smith beats Reef Dillard, and then beats Brooks Blasco, who he had lost to twice before. It was just cool to see kind of that materialize and come together for them.
And Matt, Nico, if you guys are listening, just make sure that if you're looking to give PA Power a state champ shirt, don't give it to Jeff, give it to me, because he doubted you guys for the last like 3 weeks. All you did was just go 22-0 and win a state title. But
yeah, but who did they wrestle? That's what everyone said. Who did they wrestle? Yeah,
doesn't matter, right? They got it done. They got it done and became state champs.
Yep.
Great season. Great season.
And an all Westmoreland County finals. Shout out Westmoreland County.
That's right.
That's right. I like it out here in Westmoreland County. All we do is win. I don't know what you do over there. And where are you at, Beaver? I don't even know where you live.
Bridgeville is actually in Allegheny County, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't. I left Allegheny County real fast, and I got a raise real quick too, leaving that tax bracket. I like that. Westmoreland County for life.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Franklin Regional and Norwin State finalists, 1 and 2 in the state. Just fantastic season. I've loved following them all season long. And even congratulations to Connells. Well, they didn't win a state medal, but they gave us a lot of great matches as well. So great team season overall for the WPIAL. And that really opens us up, Jeff, to the individual portion that we have coming up this weekend. We got AA and AAA sections coming up, 3 different sections for both groups, linking together as they have 9 different sections altogether. 3 will be in each one of these. And let's start over in AA. We can start in the eastern side at 107 pounds. Warren Wolfslegel of Elizabeth Forward actually gets the top seed over Mason Kiesecker of Derry. He's the number 2. Carl Thomas of Burrell, number 3. That's at 107. We'll clump a few of these weights together just to chat a bit about them. 114, Javion Chambers of Highlands is your 1. Patrick Bolger of Derry, number 2. Austin Peapot of Southmoreland, number 3. And at 121, Preston Bubash of Elizabeth Forward at 1. Demar Subar of Highlands at 2. And Raiden Thomas of Valley at 3.
Looking at the first couple weights here in the eastern section, it's top heavy, right? There's some guys at the top that are really good, and it kind of drops off. Wolfslang, we talked about him and getting that top seed over Kiesecker. I fully expect Mason Keysecker to be a favorite and come out and get a championship title in the section. But Wolfslegel, he's a regional qualifier from last year. He's a guy that's competed well throughout his 2 years in high school. But Mason Keysecker's, he's battle tested. He's wrestled some of the best in the nation and the state, and I think he's ready to prove that he's a problem in the WPIL. At 114, Javion Chambers, he was the guy last year that a lot of people didn't have finishing in the top 8 in Hershey, and he had a phenomenal season coming away with a state medal for Highlands. Has been a little bit up and down this year. I got to see him at Midwinter Mayhem. He was a runner-up there last year, and he didn't place there this year and just took some losses. But he beat Patrick Bulger from Derry in, I believe, his ultimate tiebreaker. And, Bulger had been wrestling lights out to that point. In fact, he has wins over guys that Chambers has lost to. But head-to-head, Chambers has that win. So I think I'm really excited to see that one. Him and Joseph Betts and Camden Olson at 133 are 2 rematches that I really want to see. Betts from Valley against Camden Olson. That was another close match earlier in the season. And then 121, Preston Bubash, he's been wrestling lights out this year. He started out really hot, and he's kind of continued that through this year. I don't see anybody there coming anywhere close to him coming away with a section title.
And also, just to mention, the top 6 in each weight class advance to the WPIAL tournament. So just something to keep in mind as you look at some of these weights, as all the seeds are out on the WPIAL website. 127, Cam Baker of Burrell is your top seed. Dylan Bateman of Derry, number 2. Andrew Poland of Greensburg-Salem is number 3. 133, Joseph Betts of Valley, who you just mentioned, he's number 1. Camden Olson of Derry, number 2. Carter Thomas of Burrell is at number 3. And at 139, Jacob Stewart of Burrell 1, Mike McNeil of Derry, number 2, and Logan Fox of Elizabeth Forward, number 3.
You're seeing a trend here, Derry and Burrell, right? The fact that they're in the same section, it's going to be a lot of rematches between these guys here, and maybe they bumped away and we didn't get to see it at the times that they've wrestled this year. But yeah, we're going to see a lot of Derry and Burrell throughout this weekend. Cam Baker, Dylan Bateman at 127 are 2 of the top guys. Expect them to do well. Poland from Greensburg-Salem he's had a pretty good year. I wouldn't say he's inconsistent, but he's had some really good wins, maybe some losses that I'm a little bit surprised at. But Poland is somebody who I think if he's hitting on all cylinders, he's going to do pretty well in this postseason. 133, I already talked about that rematch between Betts and Olson. Looking forward to that. Carter Thomas is also in the mix there. And then 139, Jacob Stewart. It was kind of, where were they going to go? Jacob Stewart had been down to 133. Julian Bertucci had been down at 39, but they both are now up. So Stewart and Mikey McNeil are 2 of the top guys here, and I expect that to be the case this weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned Julian Bertucci. He's the top seed at 145. William McNeil of Derry at number 2. Jose Martinez of Valley at number 3. At 152 pounds, Lucas Boyer of Elizabeth Forward, number 1. Tristan Workowitz of Mount Pleasant, number 2. Liam Jones of Burrell, number 3. And at 160, Ewan Olson of Derry at the top. Antonio Perkins of Burrell, number 2. And Josh Kuzma of South Park at number 3.
Yeah, and between Bertucci and Will McNeil, these guys have kind of toured like 3 different weights throughout the season. So I feel like they're all accustomed with many different weights. It's just a matter of, how comfortable they are at 145 plus 2. Martinez from Valley, I can't believe he's still, I feel like he's been in high school for 6 years. Martinez, he's been good. So we'll see what he can do at the sectional tournament. Lucas Boyer is one of the best in the state. He's a returning state medalist. He's a guy who, down at 152, I think he's going to be a problem, not only WPIAL, but the Southwest and the state tournament. I'm excited to see what Liam Jones can do. He's a guy who is only a sophomore for Burrell. He's one of their younger guys, but has had a couple really good wins this year. Ewan Olson, same thing. Him and Antonio Perkins, back and forth. They've wrestled a bunch, but I expect Ewan Olson to come away with the championship. And look, I mean, a guy like him is 29-10. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, Ewan Olson, like, he's a legit guy. I mean, he's a guy who can medal at states easily, right? And he's been close with guys in the top 5. We saw him wrestle Shane Wagner this weekend, and he has 10 losses already, and he's probably going to go into Hershey with a couple more potentially. So it's going to be fun to see how these guys that have been battle tested, how they turn out.
Yeah, it's funny. Some people will just look at the records and they'll be like, "How is this guy in the finals? He's got 10 losses."
I know, right? Yeah, I know. I've heard that a lot.
You got to look at the schedule.
Yeah, I got to look at the schedule. Got to look at the results.
172, Mason Horwat of Derry, your top seed. Elijah Miller of Greensburg-Salem, number 2. And Ben Catullo of Burrell at number 3. 189, Brady Brown of Derry at the top. Jake Mundorf of Ligonier Valley at number 2. And Rocco Thompson of Elizabeth Forward at number 3. 215, Ty Blasco of Derry, number 1. Aiden Kuhn of Burrell, number 2. Peyton Ban of Southmoreland, number 3. And at 285, David Peters of Greensburg-Salem at the top. Caden Shannon of Southmoreland, number 2. And Peyton Sham of Mount Pleasant at number 3.
Yeah, Mason Horwat is really good, so I expect him to continue to be really good throughout the section. Elijah Miller's had a good season for Greensburg-Salem. Greensburg-Salem is not the Greensburg-Salem of the Jones brothers that we remember back in the day, and having a really, really strong lineup with some hammers. But I noticed this year that they've got a lot of good individuals that are competing at a high level. Elijah Miller is somebody that I think is part of that group. Ben Catul is somebody that is battle tested for Burrell. I'm excited to see what Levi Faust from Ligonier Valley, what he's able to do. He was one of our top incoming freshmen, 19-8 on the season. So excited to see if he can mix it up with some of these guys. At 189, we had mentioned Brady Brown and him coming back from an injury. He's somebody that I expect to do very well in this postseason. Jake Mundorf, remember last year, I feel like he came out of nowhere. He had a really good year last year. He's taken some losses that maybe a little bit, and Ligonier Valley, it's not that they're at some of the biggest tournaments, so we don't get to see some of them at, with some of these top-ranked guys. But I think if Mundorf, obviously the skill's there, if he can put it together, he should be okay. Rocco Thompson, somebody that I think from EF's done a great job of building up. They've got to have a lot of young youth wrestlers because they've got some really good talent in the 9th and 10th grade range. With 215, I think, again, kind of like AAA, you throw up all these guys in a bag and shake them up and see what happens. I mean, Ty Blasco is 500 and he's the top seed, right? Aiden Kuhn has had some struggles this year, but he is the 2nd seed. So I don't know what to expect at 215. And to be honest with you, 285 is kind of the same boat. Like 285 in the Southwest region and specifically in the WPIAL has been sort of a crapshoot. David Peters has had a good year. Caden Shannon from Southmoreland is somebody who has won a lot. Schwam from Mount Pleasant is a veteran, but he hasn't had a ton of matches. So I don't know what to expect at 285. So again, it's kind of like AAA.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Northern section at 107 pounds, Angelo Bonai of Central Valley at the top. Braden McClure of Elwood City, number 2. Dylan Sconsi of Keystone Oaks at number 3. Only 5 kids entered at this weight class, so they will all be advancing to the WPIAL tournament. 114, Jack Kondrasik of Laurel at number 1. Ryder Gearhart of Keystone Oaks, number 2. Grayson Straub of Beaver CC at number 3. They only have 6 kids here at 114, so all 6 will advance as well, provided they make weight and show up, right, Jeff? Yeah. And then at 121, Bruce Anderchak of Quaker Valley, he's your top seed. Caden Braun of Freedom, number 2. Michael Piro of North Catholic at number 3.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's not a lot of depth in the couple weights in the northern section. Angelo Boni has had a really good season. We're not going to see his brother return state finalist Antonio Boni, unfortunately, at 133, but Angelo is kind of carry that torch, and him being a junior at 107, I think bodes well for him. But as you said, all these guys advance. Kondrasok from Laurel has had a good year, and then when you look at 121, Bruce Anderchak, same thing. I mean, he's only got one loss on the season. He's a guy who, if you remember last year, he was banged up in the postseason, didn't finish the way he wanted to. But I would say after Anderchak, it's pretty well balanced between Braun from Freedom, Piero from North Catholic, Ketzel from Laurel. I think those are really. I think those three are going to kind of battle each other to see who, who's going to challenge Anderchak. But I think Bruce is somebody that is going to do well.
127, Austin Kasanovic of Avonworth is your top seed. Zach Shearing of Freedom is number 2. Victor Wagner of North Catholic in at number 3. 133, Jeremy Wagner of Keystone Oaks 1. Angelo Amelia of North Catholic 2. Garen McDonald of Central Valley is number 3. And at 139, Archer Brua of Laurel, number 1. Dylan Jones of Keystone Oaks 2. And Rowan Lehockey of Central Valley is number 3.
When you look at 127, Kasanovic is clearly ahead of the rest of the field here. I think Victor Wagner might end up being the second best wrestler here at 127. At 133, again, it's without Bonai here. It's wide open in my opinion. Jeremy Wagner. I even like Garen McDonald. I think he's been wrestling well. Emilio has been a guy who's always been in the mix. So I think your top 3 here, it could go any way for any of those guys. Same with kind of 139. I think Brua is probably more ahead of the rest of the field. But, I mean, if you look at the records, I know we just talked about going off records, but only the first 2 have winning records. The rest are under 500 by a pretty decent margin too. So, like, it's kind of wide open in that sense at 139.
145, Ethan Bosco of Central Valley, number 1. Harper Sipes of Quaker Valley, number 2. Caden Millward of Freedom is number 3. 152, Logan Cruel of Avonworth, 1. Braden McGowan of Knock, 2. Josiah Bosch of Beaver CC at number 3. And at 160, Matt Dana of Quaker Valley at 1. Braden Reynolds of Freedom, number 2. Braxton Carr of Laurel, number 3.
So this is kind of the tale of the young wrestlers. Ethan Bosco from Central Valley at 145 has had a really good year. One of our top incoming freshmen. He's 29-5 on the year. Harper Sipes, he's another guy who from Quaker Valley that I think is going to compete, as is Caden Millward. So I think these top 3 are pretty solid. And at 152, Logan Cruel from Avonworth has had a phenomenal season. I wasn't sure what to expect from Logan Cruel, being that he's a freshman up at 152. He was a good JO wrestler for sure, but he's had a really good season at 32-5. I think Bosch from Beaver CC has also had a good season, so I'm excited to see what transpires there. At 160, Matt Dana's he's far above the rest of the field, and that's even with Braxton Carr, who we had talked about last year, had such a good postseason. But I think between Dana's in another tier, and then you got Reynolds and Carr, sort of, and even Eli Bosch trying to catch up there.
Yeah, definitely. 172, Dominic Willis of Laurel, number 1. Charles Brinkley of Freedom, number 2. Mason Kobastik of Keystone Oaks is the 3 seed. 189, Trey Dunlap of Quaker Valley, 1. Carmine Battaglia of BRCC at number 2. Jack Miles of Laurel is at number 3. 215 pounds, Colton Carlson of Laurel at 1. Carson Phillips, Central Valley, 2. Jaden DeLauder of Elwood City at 3. And at 285, Casey Wilson of Laurel, 1. Troy Gorojewski of Freedom, number 2. And Quinn Dach of Ambridge at number 3.
I'm glad you're the one having to pronounce names that are a little bit tougher.
I think I've butchered half of them, man. I thought you really
You did a heck of a lot better than I would have, that's for sure. Dominic Willis at 172 is the clear favorite here from Laurel, and this is kind of where Laurel's bread and butter is at the top half. I don't know how many Bosches there are, but there seems to be a lot at Beaver CC. I'm assuming they're all related to each other. That would be weird if they weren't. Trey Dunlap at Quaker Valley at 189, another guy who, Quaker Valley, we don't talk about them as much as we have in years past, just because they haven't been, like as a team, dual team, we used to always kind of talk about them, and I don't think we're giving them as much credit as we probably should, because they have some really good individuals here. If they were able to fill out some of these other weights, I think they would be in a pretty good spot. But Trey Dunlap, He's had a good season. Expect him to come out on top. 215, Colton Carlson, same thing. I mean, he's one of Laurel's anchors there in the heavyweights. Expect him to do really well. And at 285, Casey Wilson, all he does is win in the section and really in the WPIAL. But he's going to have his hands full in the WPIAL. I mean, that's no doubt.
Yeah, just a guy by the name of Colin White who's going to be there to battle with him. So should be fun. 189. I think that Jack Miles being the 3 seed. I'm interested to see if he can come out and battle with Battaglia and Dunlap. That should be a fun weight there. 189 in the north. Looking at the south at 107 pounds, 5 guys entered, so they'll all be moving on provided they make weight. Braden Hanning of Jefferson Morgan is number 1. Carter Baker of Burgestown, number 2. Holden Humphreys of Chartiers Houston is your number 3. 114, Caleb Delaney of Jefferson Morgan at 1. Bobby Lemley of Bentworth, number 2. Dustin Mace of Avella is number 3. 121, Tucker Maina McGuffey at 1. Alex Medlin, best center at number 2. And Brock McClure of Bentworth at number 3. That should be a good weight class.
You know, with Braden Hanning from Jefferson Morgan, I was unsure if he was actually going to be the guy to go here because Jefferson Morgan has like 4 really good guys at 3 weights. And for a second, it looked like Hanning was maybe the odd man out. But he's the guy, and he's somebody that was a regional qualifier last year, has a win over Wolfslegel from EF this year. He's 16-4, so hasn't had a ton of matches comparative to some of the other guys here, but I expect him to do really well. At 114, I think Delaney, Caleb is right there with him, right? Like I said, he's been battling for the last 2 years, and this year he's 30-8, has a really good year. Bobby Lemley from Bentworth is probably somebody I missed on the top incoming freshman report. He was somebody that I think has definitely wrestled well. Dustin Mace from Avella. I think the Avella, I'm going to shout out your Avella Eagles. I mean, they've had some good wrestlers, and I'm surprised that Jordan Moore is all the way down at the 6th seed at 121. I think he'll probably wrestle above that. But Tucker Maine is clearly ahead of the class here. I think Alex Medlin from Best Center will be able to battle as well. But Jordan Moore, I'm surprised to be all the way down at 6.
Yeah, not giving enough credit to the Avella Eagles, right? Some of the seeds they got. But I think it's hard, too, because you have like Fort Cherry, right? Because they didn't wrestle in the dual side at all. So they're really getting into the mix for the first time. We haven't seen much of them this season. And, but yeah, I mean, definitely I think with Avella, they were able to fill a lineup. But I think the biggest thing is they got, I would think, a solid guys, but they just don't have that upper echelon of guys, right? Yeah. So we don't get to talk about them a lot. But, yeah, you got guys like Mace and Moore who I think should definitely represent well here in the section tournament this weekend. 127 pounds, Clayton Elia McGuffey at the 1. Danny Smith, Burgestown, number 2. Noah Patton of Washington at number 3. 133, Lucas Barra McGuffey at 1. Noah Collins of West Green, 2. Christian Tirado of Hopewell at number 3, and at 139, Drake McClure of Bentworth, number 1. Mason Wright of Best Center, number 2. Those guys have wrestled once or twice, and Carter Cadis of Burgestown at number 3.
they've wrestled a couple times, Greg. They've wrestled a couple times in their careers. 127, Clayton Ely. I expect him to come away with a championship, but Danny Smith, Noah Patton, I think, those Washington Prexies, they don't maybe get as much credit because we don't see them as much, but I think a guy like Noah Patton is wrestling really well, and same as James Delaney from Jefferson Morgan. So I think that's a good balanced weight class. I think 133, Lucas Barr has made the decision to come down to 133. He had been at 139 for a long time. And I remember talking to Jared Roberts about this, and, he's like, well, I mean, he's qualified for states 3 times, hasn't come home with a medal. Maybe he'll drop to 133 and things will open up a little bit more for him. So I'm really excited to see Lucas Barr. I mean, I love seeing those guys that, you qualify for states 3 times, you don't get a medal. I'm kind of rooting for him a little bit to come away with a medal. But 33 is deep. It's not only deep in the WPIAL, but in the Southwest region and in the state. So it's not going to be an easy task by any means. I like Noah Collins. He's had a couple of really good wins this year. Toronto, same thing from Hopewell. He's had a good season. So I think this is a good balanced weight class. I think 139, Mason Wright goes up to 139. He had been down at 33 from Best Center. Him and Drake McClure, they've battled a lot. Carter Cadis from Burgettstown is somebody that was had a good season last year, and Lane Ely as well from McGuffey. So I think McClure is the favorite, and then Wright is kind of in that next tier for him.
145 pounds, Caleb Patton of Washington, your number one. Emmett Wolf of McGuffey, number two. Bryce Croson of Bentworth is number three. 152, Jonah Erdley of Fraser at one. Victor Bonus of McGuffey at two. Logan Noyes of Burgettstown at number three. That's a solid weight class there. And 160 pounds, Owen Ivsick of Bentworth at one. Alec Palco of Jefferson Morgan at two. Garrett Newman of McGuffey at number three. Another good weight class as well, 160.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at 145 or 152 and 160 are I think by far the deepest weight classes in the southern section. I like 145 with Patton and Wolf. Patton, again, same guy who we had talked about. Noah, I think those guys wrestle really well. Maybe not having the season that he wanted, took a few losses, but overall I think that's going to be a good weight. 152, you look at Erdley, Bonus, and Noyes. Those are three very, very high quality wrestlers, right? I think that's going to be a fun weight class. Jonah Erdley is clearly the guy, and I don't expect anyone to dethrone him there, but Bonus and Noyes are certainly going to put on a show. 160 with Ivchik and Palco and Newman. Even Javon Woods from Washington has had a good season. So just a lot of depth there at these three weights, especially the last two, 52 and 60.
Especially too when you have like a top tier guy, right? Like Owen Ivsick and Jonah Erdley. So you have that top tier guy, plus you have the depth. So it makes it a very tough weight class for sure. 172, Aaron Supler of McGuffey. He is number one. Chaz Rush of Avella, number two. Levi Yeater of West Green at number three. 189, you have Malachi Peak of Best Center at one. Braden Taggart of Bentworth, number two. Dominic Musi of Avella at number three. 215, Noah Lehue of Best Center at one. Adam Beloga of Burgettstown at number two. Lucian Williams of Southside, number three. And at 285, Colin White of West Green, your top seed. Landon Heath of Jefferson Morgan at two. Joe Wilson of Washington at three.
It kind of dies off a little bit after 160. 172, I think Supler is the guy here from McGuffey. See what Chaz Rush from Avella can do. But 189, same thing. I think Malachi Peak and Braden Taggart are head and shoulders above the rest. Dom Musi from Avella might be in the mix, but I think Peak and Taggart are clearly the guys. 215, same thing. Noah Lehue from Best Center. I mean, he's legit, right? Beluga, he'll have a good tournament, but Lehue is he's the guy, right? I don't see anybody causing him any issues. At 285 is probably one of the better weight classes outside of 52 and 60 because you got Colin White, you got Landon Heath, and you got Joe Wilson. Joe Wilson from Washington, who's been in and out of the lineup. He's kind of been in and out of the lineup for the last couple of years, but he's had some really good wins. I can remember him wrestling Baronic from Burgettstown a bunch, and he's really solid when he's on the mat. But Colin White and Landon Heath, those are going to be two tough guys to get past.
So that's the AA side of the sections. Now we look in through the AAA side, as they also will have that same tournament. So before it used to be AA had their own section, AAA did theirs the next week's while AA had the WPIAL. But now with the sections, WPIAL regional for the AAA side as well, they have to get underway here this week. They don't have that weekend off after the state duels. And you look at 107 pounds, Jeff Salvatore Colangelo of Franklin Regional. He's your top seed at 107 in the East. Grayson Guglielmo of Bell Vernon is number two. Luca Batera of Norwin is at number three. 114, Dylan Barrett of Penn Trafford. He is one. Zach Rehack of Thomas Jefferson, two. Bo Fennick of Franklin Regional, number three. That's going to be a great weight at 114. And then you look at 121, Landon Sidden of Norwin, number one. Nico Capusta of Hempfield at number 2, Titus Colangelo of Franklin Regional at number 3.
Yeah, I mean, can we really just emphasize how good the Eastern section is? I mean,
Yeah.
it's stacked. It's absolutely just insane how good the Eastern section is. And the first three weights really highlight that. I mean, Colangelo, he's somebody who beat Patera the last couple times they've wrestled. I think Grayson is in that mix as well at 107. I think he's somebody that's wrestled a lot throughout the year. Even in the offseason, I see his name everywhere. So I think he's going to have a good postseason. But there's just a lot of breathing room here because you got Jeremy Gray, you got Jack Sprensel, you got Gavin Morris, who's had a good year, Maddox Mihalik from Latrobe, who's taken a few losses and a little bit undersized. But, I mean, this is a damn good top 7 here for sure.
Only 6 get out.
Yeah, exactly. Only 6 get out. Dylan Barrett drops to 114. I cannot believe he's going to make 114. I mean, he looked huge at 121 when I got to see him. Him at 114 is going to be a problem. This is probably one of the deepest weight classes. You got Dylan Barrett returning state medals, Zach Rehak returning state qualifier. Bo Fennick is a guy who was a regional qualifier last year, but was in the mix. He's undefeated this year after having an injury before the start of the season. Zach Franks, Braden Broadwater from Bell Vernon has had a good freshman year. This is a very good top-heavy weight class. And then 121 is by far, you got the number 1 guy in the nation, Landon Sidden. You have a returning WPIAL champion, Nico Capusta from Hempfield, who's 28-2, right? Has a win over Tommy Gretz. Titus Colangelo, who has a win over Tommy Gretz. Took some losses this weekend, but still in that mix. Robert Cordova from TJ is very good. Riley Doppelhauer from Bell Vernon, not bad, right? But you look at that firepower in that first 4 weight classes. I mean, those are 4 guys that have been ranked in the top 10 basically all season. So, yeah, it's ridiculous how deep that is.
And I think it's going to be that way at every weight here in the Eastern side for sure. Nolan Rice of Connellsville, you're number 1 at 127. Luke DeSantis of Penn Trafford, number 2. Colton Klippa of Norwin is your number 3 seed. 133, Evan Tolliver of Ringgold at 1. LaShawn Haley of West Mifflin, number 2. Dominic Batera of Norwin at number 3. And 139, Brooks Blasco of Norwin, number 1. Chase Smith, Franklin Regional 2. Braden Washington of Gateway at number 3.
Yeah, so, I mean, you look at some of these weights, and I think, starting at 127, Nolan Rice, Luke DeSantis, those are 2 guys that are looking to get back to Hershey. Colin Klippa is a young sophomore who's had a really good season, battled a lot of these guys. Even Carasolio from Hempfield, he's a senior. I feel like he's been in the mix for many years. Jacob LeBrier from TJ as well. So, again, 5 very quality guys here coming out of the South, the East. 133, maybe not as deep, but there's certainly some good wrestlers here with Tolliver from Ringgold leading that charge. But LaShawn Haley from West Mifflin has had a good year. He was at 27. He ends up going 133 for the postseason. Don Butera, same thing. He's been battle tested, that Norwin team. Landon Lynn, same thing. Over 10 losses, but still a very, very solid wrestler. And then 139, Brooks Blasco and Chase Smith. This will be the 4th time they've wrestled. At least 3. So Chase Smith has the last one. Brooks Blasco has won the last 2 before that. Braden Washington from Gateway. Gateway's done a great job. I've been impressed with Gateway. We're going to talk about Theodore Mitchell as well coming up, but they've gotten some guys out and some quality guys out. So I'm impressed with them.
145, Kai Vioma of Connellsville, your number 1. Max Firestein of Franklin Regional 2. Nate Klingensmith of Norwin at number 3. 152, Mikey Ruan of Franklin Regional, number 1. Noah Curran of Norwin 2. Owen Campbell of Plum is your number 3. And 160, Christian Lowther of Ringgold at 1. Jake White of Norwin 2. Jack White, of Norwin 2. Jake Lilly of Connellsville 3.
Yeah, so it gets really deep as we go up through this. Kai Vialma at 145, obviously one of the top ranked wrestlers in the state. He's your guy at 145. But Max Firestein, he and Nate Klingensmith have been at least within a point of each other for a very, very long time. Those two, I mean, Klingensmith's got to get one on him at some point. How close they've been. But that's a good weight class. Even Jake Halstead from Hempfield has had a couple good wins already this year at 145. 152, Mikey Ruan, I mean, he's really separated himself, and he's established himself as one of the best wrestlers in the state. He's a guy who, much like Garrett Thompson, I equate him and Garrett Thompson very similarly, although I think Mikey Ruan makes it to Hershey this year, and I think he could place, to be honest with you, in Hershey. Him, Noah Curran. Noah Curran's had a great freshman campaign, but then you look how deep this is. You got Owen Campbell, Luke Lilly, Dom Angelico. These guys are all ranked in the state, all these guys here. So that's not an easy weight class by any stretch. And then 160, I feel like, is just as deep because you got Lowther at the top, Jack White, who has had a really good senior year for Norwin, Jake Lilly. Both Lillies have been they've much improved from last year. Logan Matrish from PT, who's had a good year, Cooper Dietz from West Mifflin, and Colby Hibner from Bell Vernon. All guys that I think have wrestled very well, and honestly, you're going to have 6 really quality guys coming out of this section.
172, Zach LeBrier, Thomas Jefferson, your top seed. Ethan Cartwright, Franklin Regional 2, and Sidney Hand of Penn Trafford is your number 3. 189, Hunter Snyder of Latrobe at 1, Caden Smith of Ringgold 2, Evan McManus of Franklin Regional at number 3. 215, Elijah Brown of Bell Vernon at the top, Donovan DeLuco of Gateway at 2, Cale Ott of Penn Trafford at number 3, and at 285, John Montgomery of Franklin Regional at the top, Frank Grazoulis of Plum at number 2, Andrew Gabriel of Gateway at 3.
So 172, I'm really excited to see Zach LeBrier from TJ. He's dominated Liam Costa from Moon, who is a returning state qualifier, and Zach LeBrier down from 89 to 172. He's just been looking really good. So has Ethan Cartwright. Beats Teek Sanderson this weekend. Ethan Cartwright is somebody that I think has wrestled a lot better than expected this year. 72 is a good weight. You got Sidney Hand as well. You got Teddy Mitchell from Gateway, Riley Schaefer from Norwin, and Caden Wills from West Mifflin, all guys that I think are quality wrestlers. 189, it's Hunter Snyder, and that's it, right? Hunter Snyder is the guy, and I feel like the rest of them are just going to be fighting for those other spots. But outside of Hunter Snyder, there's not a whole lot of notables per se. 215, it's the same thing. Elijah Brown, and then the rest you throw it around and see what happens. DeLuco from Gateway is maybe one of the better ones. Cale Ott from PT hasn't had a ton of matches, but Elijah Brown is one of the top guys in the nation, returning state champion, so it's not a surprise there. John Montgomery going up to heavyweight. He has wrestled 215 in heavyweight this year. I was curious to see whether he was going to go heavyweight or not for the postseason. He's only a sophomore. He's had a really good season this year. Wrestles fully committed to wrestling. He's wrestling all year round. He has a win over Grazoulis from Plum already this year. Him and Gabriel have battled back and forth, but I think Montgomery at 285 is going to be a good weight for him.
Yeah, it's a smart move, I think, because obviously you have Elijah Brown, Cooper Oskowski right there,
right,
in the WPIAL. So
imagine if you had Roman Thompson too.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I think it's just the right move for him, looking at as far as the big picture. So we'll see how that plays out, but definitely I think that was the right move. Looking at the northern section seeds at 107, Riley Smith of Seneca Valley at the top, Joey Sinan of North Allegheny 2, Kyler Craig of Armstrong at number 3, 114, Bennett Ferraro of Pine Richland at 1, Dalton Stragand of North Allegheny at 2, Paxton Newell of Kiski at number 3, and at 121, Evan Schomburg of North Allegheny at the top, Damian Phipps of Penn Hills at 2, Nick Savannah of Butler at number 3.
At 107, I'm really excited to see Riley Smith. I mean, as a junior this year, he's finally a fully sized 107-pounder. He's wrestling really well. His only loss is to Trinity freshman Leonidas Murillo at the Panther Holiday Classic. Outside of that, he's 33-1. He's had a good season. Joey Sinan also has a decent year for him, being back down at 107, but I think Riley Smith is the favorite here. At 114, Bennett Ferraro, another good season for him as a sophomore. Last year as a freshman, was right there in the mix, kind of battling with all those other 107-pounders. I think he's the guy here, but look at Anthony Jones all the way down at 7. Anthony Jones was sidelined for a couple weeks, but he's a guy who has had a good career thus far as a junior. Wasn't able to make it out of to the regional tournament last year, but he's down at the 7th seed. I'll be curious to see if he finishes above that. Keep an eye on Lewis Sears from Indiana. He's somebody that I think has had a good season, and somebody that you may not know of. At 121, Damian Phipps from Penn Hills. I just saw an article that they wrote on him and him having a good season. Evan Schomburg is clearly the favorite, but I'm excited to see like Phipps, Savannah, and Spells kind of battle out a little bit here.
127, Santino Sloboda of Butler at number 1, Brady Rohaley of North Hills at number 2, Bowen Blystone of Indiana at number 3, 133, Gus Stediford of North Allegheny at the top, Gavin Murphy of Kiski at 2, Parker Joseph of Mars at number 3, and at 139, Olympic Serraro of Mars at 1, Jackson Pollock of Kiski at 2, and Jonah Cable of Shaler at 3.
Yeah, it's the last go around for Santino Sloboda. This is it. You know, his state championship run starts now. And 127, you know, he's clearly a guy who's in the mix to win a state title. So expect him to do very well here at the section tournament. I think Brody Rohaley from North Hills is probably going to do well. I'm interested to see how Miles Hoover does from NA. He's a young freshman, but that Hoover DNA is one of toughness for sure. 133, Stediford is the favorite, but I like Gavin Murphy as well. I like Parker Joseph too from Mars. Mars has got a back-to-back tough freshman here. Keep an eye on DJ Knoll from Fox Chapel as well at the 7th seed. As I mentioned with 139, you got the freshman Olympic Serraro from Mars at 139. He's really good. I got to see him a couple times this year. Him and Jackson Pollock should be a good one. And Jonah Cable's had a good season as well.
145 pounds, Zach Hill of Seneca Valley at the top, Aiden Tovella of Shaler at 2, Paul Sermonero of North Hills is at number 3, 152, Griffin Reed of North Allegheny at the top, Aiden Haynes of Fox Chapel 2, Dominic Rowland of Kiski at 3, and at 160, Sutton Stoner Butler at the top, Weston Emmons of Shaler number 2, and Galax Kimbrough of Fox Chapel at 3.
Zach Hill is one of those guys that I feel like he's been so good for so long, and he has not made it to the state tournament yet, but he's pretty damn close, right? And he's a guy who at times I look at him and I'm like, man, this guy is he's gonna be a state medalist. And there's other times you're like, what's happening here, right? But I think if he can put it together, he's going to be a problem this postseason. I think he's clearly ahead of the rest of the guys here at 145. 152, same thing with Griffin Reed. Griffin Reed's really established himself as one of the best in the state, or especially the WPIAL. Adam Haynes is somebody that I think is going to be good, but I don't think he has enough for Griffin Reed. At 160, Sutton Stoner, he had been down to 152. I'm really glad that he chose to go up to 160 because he's had a lot of success at 160, has some wins over some of these guys, including Emmons. So I think that was a good choice by him to elect to go up to 160.
172, Carter Morvay of North Hills at the top, Caleb Kinsey of Armstrong at number 2, Travis Shear of Kiski at number 3. Definitely top heavy here at 172. Some really good talent. 189, Mario Hutcherson of Kiski at the top. Nez Green of Central Catholic, number 2. Trace Kinsey of Armstrong at number 3. 215, Cooper Roskowski of Kiski at the top. Cameron Healy of North Hills, number 2. Ty Bradshaw of Armstrong at number 3. And at 285, Philip Rearick of Armstrong, number 1. Braden McConaughey of North Allegheny, 2. And Thomas Wycheck of Seneca Valley at number 3.
It's funny because a lot of times people talk about the lightweights and how good the lightweights are, but to be honest with you, some of these upper weights are a lot deeper weight classes. I don't know if you would agree or not, but I mean, just looking at on paper, some of these weight classes are extremely deep. 172 with Morvay, Kinsey, Shear, and Fenella. Those are all guys that are state ranked guys, right? And you got 4 of them in the section at 172. So I think Morvay and Kinsey will probably be the 2 guys in the finals, but that's going to be a good weight. Same with 189. 189, you got Hutcherson, who clearly is one of the best in the state and the nation. But But Nez Green, Trace Kinsey, who's just a freshman, he's going to battle as well. Nez Green he's been close before. Excited to see how he does this postseason. 215, you've got the state runner-up in Cooper Roskowski, a guy who's going to Buffalo, one of the best in the state and nation. But then you have some really good guys, Cameron Healy, you got Bradshaw, Geller, Jackson Higgins. Yeah, I mean, this is a really deep weight class. And then 285, Philip Rurik is a guy who, him and McConaughey, I feel like they've wrestled a good amount, and they've probably are tired of seeing each other at this point. Wycheck from Seneca Valley will be pretty solid, and Signetti from Shaler, I feel like he's been around for a long time. So just some really balanced weight classes here to end the northern section.
One final section to go, Jeff, and it's the southern section in AAA, and we'll start at 107 pounds. Again, top 6 move on. They have 7 kids, so only one will be eliminated, but this one's a top heavyweight at 107. Michael Johnson of West Allegheny gets the top seed. Lee Dreschman of Canna McMillan, number 2. Parker Jennings of Trinity, number 3. And Bryce Thomas of Moon at number 4. 114, Nick McGarity of Peters Township at the top. Jackson Hoy of Trinity, number 2. Shamil Islamov of Baldwin is at number 3. And at 121, Gianno Gardner of Canna McMillan 1. Gavin Bricker of Trinity, number 2. And Karsten Kirschner of Moon is at number 3.
Yeah, some really good weights, and we start off with some fire at 107. Michael Johnson, Lee Dreschman. I think those two are going to be a really good match, and one that I've been waiting to see for a long time. And I'm not surprised that Michael Johnson is the top seed. He's a returning state qualifier. Dreschman, although he's had a heck of a freshman campaign, he's a young guy trying to overtake the guy who's been there, right? But Parker Jennings, Bryce Thomas, Bryce Thomas is somebody who had been ranked top 10 in the state, right? And he's a 4 seed in his section. So that just shows you how the depth is there at 107. 114, same thing. When you look at Nick McGarity, he's clearly the guy. But then you have Jackson Hoy, who's in the mix. You got Islamov, Hayden Seymour from Moon, Lucas Carson. These are all guys that are going to battle. Not saying that they're going to be on the same level as McGarity, but they're certainly going to be battling. 121 is a little bit more wide open. Giannu Gardner is I think the guy, but outside of that, I think it's kind of wide open. Gavin Bricker from Trinity's had a good year. Kirshner from Moon has had a good year. Nelson, Huff, even Floyd Huff. Huff is a guy who's been to regionals several times in his career. So just some well-balanced weights there.
Yeah. Floyd Huff, I feel like he's been a while
Yeah,
as well.
Right.
But
he wrestled with like Matt
senior.
Church,
Yeah, exactly. He was with that group, right? I think as a freshman. So hard to believe, but yeah, this is his senior campaign. 127, Dom Canale as the top seed at 127. Evan Sala of Mount Lebanon, number 2. Ricky Hamill of West Allegheny is number 3. At 133, Cale Yannick of Moon at 1. AJ Snatchko of West Allegheny 2. John Emma of Canna McMillan is number 3. And 139, Collier Hartman of Canna McMillan 1. Peter Leventis of South Fayette at 2. Thomas Bencho of West Allegheny at number 3.
Yeah, so Dom Canale at 127, a lot of folks, he had wrestled up at 133 for most of the end of his season, but he's down to 129, where he's a returning state medalist. I expect him to do well here. But Evan Sala is tough. Ricky Hamels has had some battles, and he's battled a couple of the better guys here. So Dom Canale is clearly the guy. 133, I think it's a little bit more wide open. You got Kel Yannick, who's a state qualifier. AJ Snatchko, who's right there. I think him and Yannick are going to be close. And I think John Emma had been down at 27, up at 33. He had a win over Canale at one point. So I really like that weight class. You throw in Jake Wright from Trinity in there as well. That's a really good weight class. And I could see it going a lot of different ways. 139, Collier Hartman's the guy, right? He's returning state medalist, a guy who beat a returning state champion last year at the state tournament, and Trey Wagner. Leventis, he was at Central his freshman year and Central Catholic, and now he's been at South Fayette for the last couple, and I think he's been wrestling really well. Bencho is somebody that last year was one of the top incoming freshmen. Maybe didn't have the season that he wanted as a freshman, but he certainly has had a good sophomore campaign.
145, Jacob Chacon of Montour is at the top seed. Ian Buccelli of Bethel Park, number 2. Zach Ragati of Moon is your number 3 seed. 152, Rook Smith of Montour at the top. Logan Slovic of West Allegheny, 2. Derek Warstel of Upper St. Clair is number 3. And 160, Cole Gibbons of Mount Lebanon, number 1. Mason Calgaro of Cannon McMillan, number 2. Luke Poland of Trinity, number 3.
So if you look at 145, it's probably one of the most balanced weight classes of the southern section. I feel like honestly, the top 6 guys, any of those guys could win it. I don't feel like there's a true front runner here. I think Chacon he's definitely one of the guys that I would expect to do well. Buccelli, same thing, but Ragati, depending on who you get, he's been back and forth with Max Firestein. Finnegan, same thing. When he's on, he's on. Devin Junko, same thing. Brock Dennison, he's got 33 wins in his career, or in his season thus far. So honestly, those 6 right there are just really good quality depth there. 152, Rook Smith, returning state medalist, and he's there as the top seed. Clearly, he's the guy, but I think a guy like Slovic or Warstel is going to push the pace. Same with Colin Fisher and Carson Gerba, who had missed a lot of time to an injury this year. 160, Cole Gibbons, trying to get back to Hershey. Mason Calgaro was unsure whether he was going to go 52 or 60. Elects to go up to 160, where I think that's probably the better choice for him. I think he's clearly the number 2 guy here at 160.
172, Liam Costa of Moon, your top seed. Michael Lawrence of Chartiers Valley, number 2. Barrett Bruckner of Trinity at number 3. 189, Michael Oshewski of Moon at the top. Tegan Barr of Trinity, number 2. Musabek Serbekov of Chartiers Valley at number 3. You got Bryce Collins there at Canamac as well at number 4. 215, Braden Collins of Cannon McMillan, number 1. Roan Tustin of Waynesburg, another guy who's been around for a while. He decides to go 215 instead of 285. He's your number 2 seed. Ian Holub of Trinity is number 3. And at 285, Edric Williams of Trinity at 1. Cam Dana, West Allegheny, 2. And Dakota Carmona of Cannon McMillan, number 3.
There's just some interesting weights here, right? Just some interesting weights. Roan Tustin, we'll talk about him, but just some interesting weights. Liam Costa from Moon, I had mentioned how he had taken a few losses to Zach LeBrier, but he's a return state qualifier. Him and Michael Lawrence, 2 of the top guys here by far. Bruckner will probably be in the mix, but not a ton of depth here at 72. 189, it's a hard weight because I have Collins. If Collins is healthy, he's winning this weight class. Unhealthy, he lost to Tegan Barr, right? So you kind of are in that tough position, and I wouldn't want to be the one seeding them, but I just don't know what to expect from these guys. So honestly, anything's possible at 189. At 215, you had mentioned how Roan Tustin's back, only 10-1. I'd have to look at his career, but he could not have wrestled more than 30 or 40 matches in 3 years. He just hasn't been. He hasn't been in the lineup a whole lot. But he made it to states as a heavyweight. He's down to 215. Him and Braden Collins are familiar with each other. Braden Collins has been pretty steady. I like Razapur too from Moon at the 4 seed. I think he'll do well. And 285 is a mess. Cam Dana is somebody who returning state qualifier, but he loses to Edric Williams. You've got Carmona from Canamac as well. Zavolis from USC. I think all these, and even Hubdell from Montour. These guys are all kind of. Cam Dana, you would think on paper, he's clearly ahead, but he's taken some surprising losses and hasn't been as on point as some of the other guys in the weight class.
Well, Jeff, for episode 100, I feel like we have given a thorough breakdown of a lot of wrestlers in WPIAL here tonight.
Yes, we have. When it should have been an easy one for us, and it wasn't.
It's right. We always make it tough on ourselves, I think.
We do. We're gluttons for punishment.
I think that's right. We're a couple of grinders. We got to work it out for sure. But, yeah, no, it's been, it's individual time. It's great to kind of get underway here with these section tournaments. It's like, you take so many, right? You take 6 to the next round. So usually even if you have an injury of some kind, you make it to the semis, you're able to get to the next round. So, it's just kind of getting the taste of what's more to come. But yeah, should be a lot of good action this weekend. Some good matchups. See if there's some surprise kids, maybe some guys that we haven't got a chance to see much of. See how they're wrestling. And at the end of the day, top 6 move on. And next week we'll be previewing the WPIAL brackets.
Yep, we'll be there. It'll be a lot of fun.
No doubt about it. For Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. We appreciate you listening and watching in the War Up on the WPIAL.